Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Here you are with Youssef from MMA 101 بالعربي, and today I have a special guest. He is one of the driving forces behind Professional Fighters League MENA success in the Middle East, where he has a vision aligned with PFL international vision to develop MMA in MENA region and lay down a strong foundation to have regional and international champions here from MENA. He is the Vice President of Fighters Relations in PFL MENA. Let me welcome Mr. Gustavo Firmino. How are you, brother?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm good. Apparently, you are in Riyadh right now.
Yes, I just arrived in Riyadh. Super excited about the next event. And yeah, it's a pleasure being here with you to talk about this great fight card that we have ahead of us.
So how does it feel like when you are just 1 week close from exactly from the fight card? How do you feel?
Yeah, there is some adrenaline. So obviously, I know these fighters for a long time, so just to see them in this semi-final on the playoffs, and I know it gets more dramatic as comparing from the regular season to the semi-finals. They are almost there in the finals, but they have this big challenge now. So talking to them on a daily basis, and I can see that how focused they are. And there are so many interesting matchups here stylistically. We've got matchups on from totally different styles, striker versus grappler. We have prospects versus renewable established champions in the region. We have fighters that are from different generations. So we have a little bit of everything in this fight card. Makes it very interesting. And me as just an MMA fan, just like yourself, yeah, I'm pumped.
An MMA fan, you are Brazilian, I believe, although I thought you are French at the beginning.
That's correct. Even though as soon as I arrived here in Riyadh, everybody speaks in Arabic to me. So I think I look Arab. Maybe it's because of the...
So this was my question. Now you have been with us for a while in Arab countries, or even in Bali, you are training with Arab fighters. We feel that you know more than other foreigners about our traditions, our ins and outs. So just tell us, from the beginnings when you came to the Arab region, what are the things that surprised you, and how do you feel now?
It's been a long time. So before PFL, obviously I lived in Bahrain for 3 to 4 years, I believe. But even before that, I was also traveling frequently to Bahrain. So I used to work for a different MMA organization, Brave Combat Federation, before. So I'm very familiar with the culture. Most of my friends are Arabs, and I wouldn't say anything surprised me. It's just obviously it's a new culture, and I just got immersed in the culture. So I lived in the Middle East for a long time, and now, as you mentioned, I live in Bali, Indonesia, but surrounded by Arabs. So I train with them on a daily basis. And yeah, it's just a region that I care a lot about. Most of my friends are from here, so it's a great pleasure to be working on developing the sport. Obviously, that I am an addict. I love MMA, and to be contributing with my part and in developing the sport with PFL MENA. It's a great honor, I would say.
So I started with that question, so that we laid the foundation for being the VP of Fighters Relations in PFL MENA. How being like one of the Arabs here in the region helped you in your current position?
Yeah, so I think when obviously PFL has been very vocal about the plans of establishing and creating the Champions League of MMA. So besides the global league, to establish also the regional leagues. So we started with PFL Europe last year, PFL MENA that was launched this year, Africa to be launched next year, and so on. So when PFL started talking about PFL MENA, it got my interest. Obviously, it's a region that I know really well. I know all the fighters, the gyms, the managers, everybody involved in the sport here. And I really like to work with them. I get along well, as you mentioned. Most of my friends are Arabs. So when PFL started talking about PFL MENA, I said, okay, I think I know somebody for the job. And, it's just, it was great when things worked out and I got this job that it's a dream job for me. But definitely, I think what helped was this previous experience that I had. So even though I'm Brazilian, but yes, I know the region really well, and specifically the MMA scene.
Great. There is something unique about PFL that in your posts, even in your like interviews, you say that this fighter is coming. He's an ex-Brave champion. This fighter is a UAE Warriors contender. We don't see this much in organizations, especially here in MENA. Normally, they get fighters and they don't say what it was their background in which promotions. He just came to our promotion now, and they care about promoting him from that stage. What do you think is the reason behind this strategy in PFL? Do you think that you have no competitors here in the region, or what?
No, I think first of all, I think it's important to talk about the background and the story of that athlete, right? So not only about the MMA background, but I like to get to know the fighter from start. When did he start training? What was his first martial art? Does he have a BJJ or Muay Thai rank? Maybe like Russian fighters, they have, they're master of sports, which is a great reward based on the level of training they had. So I'm obsessed with that, maybe because I train as well for so many years. For me, that's very important. That tells the story of how his skills developed up to that point. So the way we promote the fighters, you can see from the broadcast, they have all the information, how many times they were champions in all the different combat sports. So obviously the championships those fighters have in the other regional organizations, that's actually a very important part of the story as well. So definitely this is something, and I agree with you, other organizations, they don't like to mention that. I don't know what the reason is. For me, that's an important part of the story. If we have a UAE Warriors champion, that was something, a big accomplishment he had. But at the same time, I believe what we are building, PFL MENA, is the ultimate platform for competition to determine who are the best fighters in the region. So it's an interesting platform where we get the best fighters from all the various countries in the Middle East, but then together, I think we have an interesting mix of prospects, like a Mohamed Al-Akra, undefeated prospect, against other fighters who are, as example, Amir Fazli, who is a UAE Warriors middleweight champion, and then we have all these fighters competing to determine who is the best. So I think that's what we developed in the region, and I just cannot wait to see how this tournament unfolds, to see who are going to be the champions. Because when I look at this fight card, honestly, it's sometimes it's a coin toss. I have no idea how these fights are going to play out.
Amazing. Before talking about the fight card, I know how stressful it is when there are fighters who are out of the competition due to injuries, due to any other reasons. Just tell us briefly about PFL methodology. Do you have backups, like one or two, or how do you manage such situations in order to not have a fighter getting promoted to the finals, for example, without fighting in the semifinals?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So in PFL, the worst case scenario is a fighter having a pass and without having a fight, right? So the way we mitigate that is, for each event, we have alternates for each of the weight classes. So, for example, in this event, we have all the weight classes, right? Bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. So we have 4 alternates. We have 1 backup fighter per weight division in case somebody gets injured, or even if the fighter doesn't make weight by obviously there is a limit. If he misses by a quantity that the commission and PFL determines that he cannot fight, so even it could happen even one day before the event, a fighter pulling out, and we have a PFL having to replace him with an alternate. So that's how that's the strategy we have to make sure that there is always a replacement for a fighter in case he pulls out even on the last moment.
Interesting. And we saw how strict PFL is related to anti-doping also. That there were, I believe, 2 fighters were caught that they are doping, and PFL announced about 1 winner, and about the loser, they just didn't mention it. So do you test all fighters, or you take samples from some fighters?
So we have random testing. So we have in competition random testing. We hire a third party, a company that they do the tests. They choose the fighters that are going to be tested. So the quantity, it might be half of the card. It might be, they will determine. It's a random testing strategy what we do. And yes, as you mentioned, one of the fighters in this fight card, actually, Omar Gigi, he's fighting because he is replacing Abdullah Salim, who tested positive for drug test in competition. So in this case, he moves on. So yeah, that's an important part of what we do to make sure that it's a fair competition. So we have a third-party company doing the random testing.
Great. So many questions I'm receiving from fighters asking what are the criteria PFL is looking at for the next season for 2025. Are you going to have other weight classes, flyweight, middleweight maybe? So just tell us what you are looking for in a fighter.
Right. So regarding the weight classes, for now, we have these 4 weight classes. So like I said, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. For the next year, we are still going to discuss which weight classes. I think likely we are going to keep the same, but we also, because what we need to realize is what are the most of the fighters in the Middle East, they are within these weight classes, right? There are not really many heavyweights here in the Middle East, for example. So our decision on the weight classes per region, it's also relates to the average weight classes and sizes of people in that region. There are quite a few middleweights, yeah. There are more welterweights, though, I would say. So, it's obviously this is something that we need to keep watching, and we are flexible to adjust. It's just that these were the weight divisions to start, and by the end of each year, or actually even before the end of, I would say after the playoffs, now after this event, we are going to start already working on the roster for the next year. I've already started kind of, putting things together in the strategy with the global team as well. So definitely changing or adding weight classes is something that we can always consider. But for now, I like these 4 weight classes. I think the tournament is playing out really well. There is a wide pool of talent in these divisions, and not only of big names, but also very good prospects in all these weight classes. So I'm super happy with the fight so far. And yeah, in terms of what weight class we're going to have in the future, we are flexible, and that's something that we can always discuss and adjust in the future.
Clear. In PFL Global, we are seeing some champions like Carla Harrison, for example. When she won the championship, then she participated in several seasons. Can we expect the same to happen in PFL MENA, that, for example, the winner will be fighting also in the tournament next year?
Yeah, that's possible. So the way we work is, when a fighter wins, we need to discuss and evaluate his performance and his level compared to the global level. If we feel the fighter is ready to go to the global season, then there would be the next step. But there are cases where obviously the global league is a very high level, especially with the merge with Bellator. It's a very high level competition. So depending on each case, we may determine that the fighter should do another PFL MENA league, do it once again. So I think this is case by case. Just as an example, in the PFL Europe last year, from the 4 champions, 2 champions went to the global season, and the other 2 champions stayed competing regionally in this year.
Okay. So the fighter who wins, just to make this clear, the fighter who wins the championship in his weight class in PFL MENA, he doesn't get a guaranteed ticket in PFL Global.
Not guaranteed. It depends on his performance, and it depends on we evaluating that he's ready for the global competition. Obviously, as we discussed, the global competition is very high level. So we need to make sure that we determine that fighter, we evaluate that he is ready for the global competition. But obviously that's the goal. But we're obviously looking after the fighter in his best interest as well. If it's going to be worth for him doing another regional competition in order to build up more experience before going to the global level, that's what we would.
Now with the merger of PFL and Bellator, we feel that PFL is interested in MENA region. However, Bellator is not. Although there are fighters from MENA region, like Islam Siaha will be fighting tomorrow, and they are getting Arab fighters also. But for us as fans, it's very difficult for us to watch Bellator events. You can maybe see the prelims in YouTube, but then there is no way to pay and watch. So will this be improved in the future from your interactions with Bellator and PFL Global?
Right. So this is the first year that we have Bellator working together with PFL, right? So this is obviously the Bellator was acquired by PFL at the end of the last year. So this is the first year that PFL is running together in joint with Bellator. The events have been done mostly in Europe. If I'm not mistaken, 8 events per year, 6 of them in Europe. So obviously the focus has been more in Europe in terms of the athletes they have for those reasons. But it's what is very interesting about PFL and about our leaders, Pete Murray, Don Davis, and so on. They are very flexible, and they like to adjust the strategy as it goes. So it wouldn't surprise me, like I'm not involved in the Bellator business. I am fully focused on PFL MENA, but I wouldn't surprise if Bellator brings an event to a different region. So this year is more focused in Europe, but is it going to be the same next year? Like I personally don't know. Like I'm not involved in Bellator, but I think the strategy evolves, and it can be adjusted as it go. I think we have already a couple of Arab fighters in Bellator, as you mentioned. Siaha.
Islam. Islam Siaha.
Exactly. So
it's not about having the events here in Bellator, but in Middle East. I mean, we want to watch them. Like, let's say UFC Fight Pass to watch UFC. What application we can have here in the Middle East, which is working to watch the full matchup. For me, I'm downloading torrent to because I don't have any other way to watch it.
Yeah. So top of my head, I can't tell you what is the broadcast partner here in the region for Bellator, but it's like I said, when it comes to the I think the core of your question was about the interest for Arabs to watch Bellator. Not really many Arab fighters there, right? So now we have Islam. There are, like I said, most of the events were hosted in Europe, so there is a big focus on having fighters that are meaningful for that region, because that's where the events are being hosted. But I think this is something that can be adjusted in the future. And also, one thing you need to take into consideration is this is the year that we PFL started working together and running Bellator. Is also the same year when PFL MENA was launched. So at the end, the Arab part of PFL was all focused on PFL MENA, right? So I think this can change in the future. I think that there are so many opportunities. There are maybe a fighter from PFL MENA maybe they need a fighter and he ends up joining Bellator. There are so many. So there are different franchises, and there are fighters, for example, that they can represent 2 countries. Ali Taleb, he competed for PFL Europe last year, representing Sweden. obviously his family is from Iraq. This year he's fighting for PFL MENA, representing Iraq. So there are so many opportunities here for the fighters. So I think that's the interesting part. And this year is what you're seeing this year. Things can look a little bit different next year. So that's the fun part of being a PFL fan as well.
Yeah, amazing. So just before we go to the fight card that we are anticipating for 20th of September, PFL MENA 1 and 2, tell me 3 fighters that impressed you. Not necessarily in the league, maybe showcase fighters. On the top of your head, don't think too much. The first 3.
Right. There are so many, but I would say I got very surprised by Sohail Tairi. He had an incredible performance against an experienced Ahmed Amir, who was obviously a former Brave CF champion. Sohail, I remember him since he fought for the title in UAE Warriors, and he had a very close fight against Mohamed Yahya. It was a split decision. In my opinion, I watched that fight at least twice or 3 times. I thought Sohail won that fight, to be honest.
I agree with you.
So he's like one of, if not the best lightweight in the region. So he had a great performance. Obviously, Mohsen, who is going to be fighting Sohail, he had a fight against a very experienced Josh Togo, and man, that power is a different level. He's a different level kind of striker. So I ended up talking about fighters who are going to face each other now. But yeah, on top of my head, those 2, obviously, Abdul Al-Khatani, he had an incredible performance, put so much pressure that, he got a technical knockout at the end. So many other fighters. We could go to Rashid El Hazom. I mean, finishing Xavier, who is a strong athlete training from Firas Zahabi's gym, TriStar, and a champion. So Xavier, that surprised me a lot as well. Hatan having her MMA debut with a beautiful head kick KO. That was, incredible. One of the most viral KOs I have ever seen. And she showed that she is very serious and committed about her MMA career. She's obviously a very decorated striker, a Muay Thai champion in the region and world champion as well. But we could see that she's putting efforts in building skills to become a overall well-rounded, skilled MMA fighter. So there were situations where she had to go on the ground. She got back up, and on her second fight as well, she was fighting against multiple times karate champion from Egypt. And, at the end, she put so much pressure that she ended up winning by TKO as well. So I can go on and on, but a lot of fights surprised me.
Yeah,
and to mention one more, Omar Dafraoui, I don't even remember what was the end of his.
You need to mention his name, otherwise Mbali, he would take care of you in training. You need to mention Omar Dafraoui name.
It's just because I think I had never seen judges scoring a fight like that. I think he won 2 rounds by 10-8. It was crazy, the pace he put.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. So, like much respect to Anthony Zayden to stay until the end of that fight, and he's so tough. But Omar Dafraoui, he was a machine. And he won at least 2 rounds by 10-8. So his volume and his combinations looked incredible.
That's great. Now in the quarterfinals, the first event for each weight class, how PFL MENA determines the brackets, who will be fighting who? Is it by draw, or is it like to match up a high level with a lower level in terms of records, or how do you do that?
Right, that's an interesting question, but basically what we try to do the best we can. Obviously, there are divisions where we have different levels. We have prospects, we have more experienced fighters. At the end of the day, what we do is to have a first matchup that is a good level stylistically, where both fighters have a path for victory. Obviously, we need to do a bit of seeding. So like the two best in the division, we put them in right on the first match. So we put them in different sides of the bracket, for example, right? But we cannot do that with all the top four, so to say. Otherwise, it can become very predictable how it's going to move on. So we have our own ways of matching the fights in a way that they're going to be fair matchups. There are paths for victory. Even for the less experienced, he still has good paths for chances to win because of the stylistically how that fight could play out. Give you an example here, Morsen. Morsen is, he might be the less experienced fighter when it comes to MMA experience in the division.
Look outside MMA, man.
But outside MMA, he's obviously a very decorated striker. So we put him against a very and actually a current UAE Warriors champion, who is also a striker. So it leveled things up, even in terms of the MMA experience. It was not the same, but it was still, in terms of skills, an interesting matchup. So there is a certain magic to create those brackets and
do you try to avoid, for example, do you try to avoid having like two fighters fighting in the same gym to fight each other, or from same nationality? Although we saw some Moroccans fighting each other, at the end you cannot have the perfect scenario. But do you look at these aspects to avoid them as much as possible?
Yeah, it's like you mentioned. There are nationalities that we have so many fighters, so it's impossible. So when they are from the same gym, yes, we try to put them in different brackets, so they would meet in a later stage. But in terms of nationalities, we don't. There are many variables. This might be one of them, but not all the time. It will depend on many other variables regarding records, their skills, styles, and etc. But the main goal for us is that the first matchup is a balanced level where both fighters have chance to win and to create interesting matchups. So I think one feedback I got from many people in the industry is it was difficult to predict how most fights would go because they were so well matched up. So I said, okay, so it means that we did a good job, because that's exactly the goal.
By the way, guys, Gustavo, like a couple of days ago, he did a great interview with Fight Capital, and I watched that. I did my homework, so I don't repeat questions, so that you can see that interview and this one, they will be complementing each other. Now, let's move to the fight card. Now, of course, one of the most anticipated fights is the main event, of course, Abdullah Al-Qahtani and Abdulrahman Al-Hiyasat. And you saw in the interview between both fighters how each fighter is backed up with their country, with their fans, that I won't make them sad, I will win, I will be in the finals. How do you think about this fight?
It's a very interesting matchup. And both of them were training in Phuket, Thailand, by the way, which is very interesting. They were probably, a couple of blocks away from each other training. Stylistically is a great matchup. Obviously, Al-Qahtani, he has a strong Muay Thai background. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Both fighters are on 4-fight win streaks. Obviously, Al-Qahtani is 9-1, and Abdelrahman is 4-0. What is interesting about Abdelrahman is that he's only 4-0, but he has 13 amateur fights as well that are not in the records, but he fought 13 times. He's 12-1 amateur, so he has a strong MMA experience. Nevertheless, what is most interesting about the fights is he won 4 fights by decision, unanimous decision. He dominated his opponents. They had 0 chances during those fights. He was never in trouble. He is always under control in range. He picks the opponents apart from his striking range. Whenever he's put on pressure, he gets the takedown on will as well. So he does have some wrestling techniques, strong techniques as well. So he's a fighter that when you watch him, it's difficult for, and I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, so, but when I watch, I've been watching MMA my whole life, it's difficult even to find where are the vulnerabilities and openings. He's being perfect so far, right? Al-Qahtani, on the other hand, he's wild. You know, in his last fight, he put so much pressure until his opponent basically gave up. So Al-Qahtani has that pressure in his favor. Obviously, he has more MMA experience, professional experience. He has more experience on the big stage as well.
PFL Global.
He also fought for PFL Global, and he actually started his training with wrestling. So that's what most people don't talk about. Obviously, he's a decorated Muay Thai champion, but he's a great wrestler. He started his training in a martial arts with wrestling. So stylistically, it's an interesting matchup. I have no idea how this will play out. It's just a great matchup. It's a great main event.
Do you like to give predictions?
I cannot, and I would not be able to make a prediction anyways. So I don't think it's ethical for me to give a prediction, but I wouldn't be able to anyways. It's a great fight. I would say I truly believe this is a 50-50 fight. And I'm saying that as a fan. I've been watching MMA since forever. This is a fight that is very equal on paper, and I do not know how it's going to play out. Abdelrahman, he has a very strong fight IQ. He knows how to be in control of the matchups. Can he do that against someone that puts so much pressure like Al-Qahtani? That's what we're going to find out.
Yeah, I can't wait for that fight. And also the co-main event between Jarrah and Omar. Man, in their interview, I felt that Omar is going to conquer and take everything, but Jarrah, Jarrah, yani, he told him after 2 minutes in the fight, you will know that what you trained for is maybe for other fighters, but not against Jarrah. What do you think about this fight?
Wow, really? He said that?
Yeah.
This matchup is incredible. So some background story about this. By the way, I'm very close friends with both of them. I love both guys. This is, it's a great matchup against two great guys and very skilled mixed martial artists. Omar Dafraoui, he was telling me that actually he would look up to Jarrah as his hero. So when he started actually training MMA, he would look up to Jarrah. He was already obviously, famous. He was having a lot of success. You look at the record. Jarrah he has 26 professional fights. Omar has 17. So you can see that he has much more experience, even though they're in similar age. Jarrah started fighting MMA much earlier. So Omar used to look up to him. He's a big fan of Jarrah. So this is a duel of generations in terms of MMA, not age, but is basically Omar, after such a long losing streak, I believe 4-fight losing streak, he came back up, he moved to Bali, started training and really taking his MMA training more professionally, has been looking unstoppable. And now he put himself in a position to fight against his hero, Jarrah, who is well-known as the best fighter in the region, 2 times brave champion. And it's just give me goosebumps. Like, what a fight. And interesting enough, both fighters have a strong striking background. Jarrah is very well-rounded anyways, but he's more in a kickboxing type of style, I would say. Omar he has a boxing background. He's 4-0 in professional boxing. So it's a fight that we could say between 2 strikers, but at the same time, Omar is a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's has showed that he's very well-rounded, and I've seen him in the gym a couple of times. I'm not often in the gym because PFL is giving me too much work lately. But when I see, he has fantastic grappling as well, and so does Jarrah. So it got to a point that I think they are very equal skill-wise, and this is the moment that where we are going to see, has Omar evolved so much that he can overcome his hero and that is well known as the best fighter in the region? That would be a fantastic story.
Omar told Jarrah, I've never been submitted in my life. And Jarrah told him, yeah, but I'm a black belt. Nobody can say I've never been submitted. You will be submitted. What do you think about these both statements?
They're both right. Yeah, it's, look, we have seen the last fights when Omar lost. He lost because the opponent had a better grappling and was able to control Omar. But he made adjustments since then. He has very good. I think the problem with Omar is when he loses his focus, the fight starts not going his way, and he loses his focus. Because me personally, I trained with Omar, jiu-jitsu with Omar. It's one of my hardest roles, and I rode with everyone from world champion, black belts, all kinds of levels. So Omar actually has very good grappling skills. I think it's the mental game for him and keeping his focus in the fight is an important aspect for him. But at the same time, is what Jarrah said. He has some truth in that. Jarrah has very good jiu-jitsu skills. I mean, he trains under Sammy, who is a legend, one of the pioneers of jiu-jitsu and MMA in the Middle East. So Jarrah does have high-level jiu-jitsu. Will this fight go to the ground? Because they are both so good and so strong in striking that who is going to shoot first? You know, that we got to watch to see how this one is going to play out. I have no idea. But there is no way this fight is not going to be.
You can't miss it.
Super exciting. This is a kind of fight we know it's going to be fireworks from start to finish.
Yeah, a guaranteed fireworks.
Yeah.
There is a repeated question about Rayan Atmani, who fought Jarrah in the first fight on short notice, and he lost apparently in end of first round. Do you think how do you think first about his performance, Rayan Atmani, and do you think that he might be in future seasons?
So yes, indeed, he joined in PFL to fight Jarrah in a very short notice. Jarrah was set to fight against Bashar Taher before, who pulled out due to injury. And Ryan has much respect to him. He has much less experience than Jarrah. He went there and he gave his all. He was on Jarrah's fate. He landed some strikes, and at the end, Jarrah prevailed, took him to the ground and finished. I think Ryan, he's a tough guy. He was very confident during the whole fight week. What surprised me, he said, Gustavo, I didn't come here just to get a paycheck and to fight Jarrah. I came here to win. And I saw his attitude. He went there to win, and I respect that. So definitely, we see what's next. I think it would be important for him to build himself back up, and we see what could be future opportunities for him. But like I said, much respect to get a fight against Jarrah in short notice with that attitude and confidence. I really respect that.
I had an observation. There is around the 3 undefeated fighters in the upcoming card. Abdurrahman Al-Hyasat 4-0. You have Omar Al-Regegi, he's 4-0 after cancelling the previous fight. And Marwan Bilghwait is 5-0. And all of them, they are fighting much experienced guys in terms of record. I'm talking MMA record. So do you think that all of them will lose that 0 in PFL?
This is the moment of truth for them, right? So it's what we were speaking about.
Fraud validation.
Maybe the first matchup was a little bit more equal level, but at some point it's the moment of truth for them. Are they a strong prospect who are ready for that next level? And this is where we're going to find out. So all of them are fighting more experienced fighters. But if you look at their results in their previous fights, you can see that they are where they are for a reason. They actually have chances to win on all these fights. Like we said, Abdelrahman against Al-Qahtani, I think it's a 50-50 fight. We talked about
Marwan and Islam.
Marwan is a sniper. He has such a strong
Striking.
Muay Thai, or kickboxing rather. He trains at a kickboxing gym in Morocco, and he's a sniper. Since I watched his fights in UAE Waters, I was so impressed. And he's going to be fighting against Islam Reda, who comes from a jiu-jitsu background. So we have a jiu-jitsu versus a striker kind of fight, and it's just and even for Mohamed Al-Akra is undefeated. He's 6-0. He was set to fight Badreddin Diani, who unfortunately got injured. And now he's going to fight against Amir Fazli, who is multiple times Wushu Sanda World Champion, a UAE Warriors champion. And he has 6 wins, 5 of them knockouts in the first round. So it's the moment of truth for him as well. Is he ready for the next level? And, that's the interesting storylines that we see in this fight card.
Every fight you mentioned, it can be a main event in a promotion,
Yep.
Yeah, I can't stop myself from saying this. So tell me one more fight in the card, which is interesting you the most, other than those which we talked about.
All the fights, I'm interested in all of them, but I'll mention a fight. Can I mention? I will say Mohamed Al-Akra versus Amir Fazli. I mean, we already talked about that. So Sohail versus Mohsen. That's crazy based on their first performance in PFL MENA, right? Sohail is so well-rounded, brown belt in luta livre, but such aggressive striking, all kinds of angles, and he's a savage. I had never seen anything like that. His performance was incredible, and like we discussed, he might be the best, if not one of the best lightweights in the Middle East. And he's going to be fighting a Morrison, who is a different level of striker. He showed that he can knock out anyone in this division. He might be, and arguably, he is the most decorated striker in PFL MENA, potentially PFL worldwide. That's how incredible his resume is. So this fight is very interesting. And don't ask me for a prediction. I have no idea how it's going to play out. And another interesting fight we have is Elias Ismail versus Rashid. That fight is a little bit under the radar here, that we didn't even mention their names. I mean, Elias, let me just get my notes here.
Elias is one of the fighters that I enjoy his jiu-jitsu. He is so confident about his triangles, about the chokes that he's doing. I saw some fights for him in Brave. Oh man, he should be under.
He's a finisher. Yeah. So he has 19 wins, 18 by stoppage, 16 by submission. So he's a finisher, and he's gonna fight against Rashid Haas. I mean, 14-3. Yeah. He's a national K1 champion. He's a Naga European champion as well. So good everywhere, very well-rounded. Elias is very obvious. He's looking for the submission. He's a BJJ black belt, a finisher against somebody very well-rounded in Rashid. So very interesting matchup as well.
Interesting. So for everybody who is in Saudi Arabia, you need to go to Riyadh and watch the event until 20th of September in the Boulevarд. And if you are not in Saudi Arabia, you need to watch it online or on NBC Action, SSC TV. Don't miss the fireworks from beginning to the end. Even the amateur fights, we are seeing Malik Basahel. He has a big fan base in Saudi Arabia. And also there is a showcase fight between Yazid Hassanein at the beginning. And
yeah, which is a very good matchup. Both of them, they lost in the first round. But Yazid, he changed the opponent in the last minute. He fought against Abdullah Qahtani, but we know how good he is. Adam Eskini had an amazing performance against Islam Reda. That was a very close fight. He lost the fight, but he showed how good he is as well. So they are having a showcase bout. And I mean, it's worth mentioning and giving the flowers for the other matchups as well. We mentioned all of them except we have Ali Talib versus Jalal. That's a fight between two totally different generations. I mean, Jalal has been fighting since Desert Force era, right? Very experienced. He's 37 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and he's going to be fighting against Ali Talib, a current UAE Warriors bantamweight champion, very, very powerful striker, 26 years old. What is interesting about this fight is Jalal, he has a lot of wins when the opponent gets tired, and then at the end he gets back on track. Like it looks like he's going to lose the fight, and then at the end he finds a way to win. So on paper you would think that, you know, this is a fight that Ali Talib should win, but you can never overlook the experience of Jalal. So that's an interesting fight. And then the other fight we didn't mention, we have Georgid versus Omar Gigi. Both come from the Wushu Sanda competition scene, right? So that could be interesting as well. Georgid, more experienced, had an amazing first round against the tough Abbas Khan. And Omar Gigi, you know, he has another chance here. And he was training in Dagestan. He's been training hard, obviously grappling, but his main skills are in striking with Wushu Sanda background, which is the same background of Georgid. So every fight has an interesting storyline here, and I cannot wait. I'm talking like as a fan, I cannot wait. This is for sure is a historic event. Is an event where we are going to have a lot of questions answered in terms of the undefeated, the prospects. Are they indeed ready for the next step? That's the moment for them to prove. We have champions that are going to be challenged by very strong prospects here. We have fighters coming from, you know, some bad moments in their career, like Omar El Dafraoui, who turned his life around and he's on an incredible win streak. But then, guess what? He faces the best fighter in the region. So each fight here has an interesting storyline, and they are here for a reason. And it's difficult to predict how they're going to play out. So for all the MMA fans out there, if you like, even if you're not Arab, if you like good MMA, if you like good fights, make sure to tune in NBC Action or Shahid. These fight cards are definitely going to be fireworks.
The moment of truth. A couple of questions, Gustavo, if you don't mind.
Okay, quick ones.
Quick. One is asking, is Tariq Ismail still a backup from Tariq Ismail from Sudan?
Yes.
He was supposed to fight, I believe, but his fight didn't work.
Yeah, his opponent got injured, but he's still the backup. He's still the alternate.
When you are a manager of a fighter, what do you feel if your fighter loses? Do you feel that part of the responsibility is on you because you gave him that fight?
I think
Tough questions, I know.
Yeah, no, I think the best way to describe is when somebody wins, it's a contribution and collaboration of the whole team. Obviously, the fighter is the person who is in the cage and executing, but his performance will be a result of a preparation, you know, combining all his team efforts to train him for that moment, right? So when he wins, everybody celebrates, everybody's part of it. So I think when he loses, is also, I think everybody needs to take a little bit of the blame and say, you know what, the whole team loses. So that's how I would describe.
I really appreciate your time today and your honest answers to the questions. Thank you for being here. And we know the great efforts behind the scenes which are done to have a successful event, which will be, inshallah, on the 20th of September. Just say last words to the fans, what to expect after all the detail that you gave in a short statement, what to expect on 20th of September, and we will end this interview.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your coverage, PFL MENA, and for MMA in the region. And what the fans can expect is an incredible fight card with the most skilled fighters in the region, the best fighters, the best names, regional champions against the best prospects as well. We have representatives of all the styles from grappling, from various types of striking, and the fans are in for a treat. This fight card is a history-making fight card, and definitely is going to deliver memorable moments for the MENA MMA history. So I cannot wait. This is a historic moment for MMA in the region to determine who are the fighters who are going to make it through the inaugural PFL MENA League finals, and I cannot wait.
Thank you, Gustavo. See you all. Don't forget to follow MMA 101 to see all the latest interviews.
Yeah, no, it was a good chat. Sorry for my long questions. It's just I get excited, like.
No, that's wonderful. That's what I wanted.